to welcome you to another podcast, an Allen podcast. I am here with head women's volleyball coach, Whitney Shaw.
Yes.
You were an assistant coach here for 5 seasons, and you just finished up your 5th season. So you've been here, 10 years.
Yeah.
You were also a student athlete. Was it 05 to 07 or 06 08?
06, 08.
Okay,
Yep.
06 08. That's right. I know I left in 07.
Yep.
So, welcome. When I'm doing these things, I was excited, and I kept whenever you were married, and we'll get into that later. When you married Andy, I had Whitney Falkenstein in my phone forever, and I was like, I don't want to change it.
Yes.
It wasn't just your name. It was like, on the phones you have like your Microsoft, you have the Samsung account, you have the Google account. I was like, I don't want to change this in every single one of them. And then I merged accounts and whatnot, and I could change it to Whitney Shaw.
Falkenstein was a little more memorable probably than
Yeah,
Shaw.
yeah.
It's a little more uncommon.
Yeah. No, but I was like, really? Andy, seriously?
Yeah.
It's like, I gotta
Gotta go change.
You inconvenienced me. Now I got to change my phone contacts. But no. How long? Obviously, I talked about how long you've been coaching, but what got you into coaching?
Yeah, so I kind of always thought maybe coaching was something I wanted to do. My dad was a high school women's basketball coach for 15 years. And before we moved. And so I was in college trying to finish out school, and the head coach before me, JP, she and I were good friends, and she kind of called and asked if maybe I would be interested in coming back and being her assistant. She had an assistant, I think, for a couple of years, but I know a few years she also went assistantless with the exception of Todd. So, just asked if I would be interested in applying, and so that's kind of how I got my foot back in the door. So I would have been gone 2 years, played 2 years at Ottawa University, and then came back to start being an assistant.
I know it's always weird how sometimes roads lead back to where you started.
Yeah.
It's you. I don't know how many times, I'm sure I've heard it from student athletes, and I can't wait to get out of here. I want to get out. I want to get on, and they move on, and then as life progresses, they're like that opens up. Well, I live there. I can go back there. I'll go back there. So that's cool.
Yeah, I just had an athlete tell me that just a couple of days ago, actually. So she came back to get some books for summer class because she would have just finished this semester, but was going to take a summer class, and she was like, "Oh man, I miss it." Which obviously with COVID happening, she's been gone a little bit longer than normal at this point, but. She was like, yeah, I already miss it for sure. She's like, I want to come back. She's like, why can't it be a 4-year? So
you weren't expecting, so 2015 was your first year as a head coach. You were not expecting to be the head coach in 2015.
No, not really. A lot happened in 2015 for sure. Andy and I got married. We bought our first house. I became head coach. I got pregnant later that year. A lot of stuff happened. But no, we went on our honeymoon, and then JP had been here. She was just finishing up her 10th year, actually. And so we got back, and it was summertime, so I was an assistant. You're not really expected to be here during the summer and doing stuff that much during the summer. So but she called me in one day and was like, I think it was June sometime, was going to be her last day. And so then it was kind of to decide if I should apply. I felt a little hesitant about that at the time, just because, Andy has so much experience, like mentorship and stuff like that, coming from a D1 and just all the people that he knows. I didn't really feel like it's easy to compare myself to him because we live in the same household. So
heard you guys are competitive, very competitive.
Yeah. So I really didn't feel like I had, that much experience. I'd been the assistant for 5 years, but in my course of being a player, I think I had 6 coaches in 4 years.
That's hard to
it was
to get in a routine.
It was, And a couple of those were difficult coaches, so I learned things I didn't want to do. but I didn't really feel like I had a good grasp on exactly what needed to be done to be successful, and so I was very hesitant. But I did go ahead knowing that I'd been here and things like that. I did go ahead and apply, and obviously got the job. So
you want to give yourself a little more credit there, and because Andy, not everyone's going to have Andy's background
right.
and have coaching. You know, some of them are like myself and you, where you're just like, okay,
Yeah.
let's jump into this. All right, so 2015, 11th hour, become the head coach.
Yeah. Late July.
Yeah, late July. So you got married, got pregnant, and got a head coaching job.
Yes.
Thrown at you probably, within 9 months.
Yes.
Span.
And had to finish my bachelor's degree that year because I, took longer than should have.
Hey, it is what it is. There's
happens, right?
There's no time limit on these things. I was like, you can get there's some forever students.
That's
I know
right.
some people are I'm just going to keep taking classes.
Yep.
I'm trying to say this nice. You got off to a rough start. And it culminated in 2017 with a winless season. And it's easy to point and say, oh man, you lost one. But for someone who's in it like you were, you have to be honest with yourself. And I look at everyone's coaching, staff and staff size and what you're competing against. And when I went to, the other school I was at, I would see their roster and I would see other schools' rosters. And I always question, I was like, a little loaded. Okay.
Yeah.
I probably should be in a different division, but I'm not on that. Who am I to judge?
Yeah.
Take us through that. Like, take us through the start, culminating that. Now I will add in before you get started. This year you won 19 wins.
Yeah.
Fifth season, 19 wins, your fifth season. 4 seasons combined, 20.
Yeah.
So you are heading in the right direction, but take us back to what you...
So really, like, my first 2 seasons, I think, like, mentally, it kind of went back to what I said earlier as far as, like, just... I was very unsure and, like, naive, and I really wasn't that young, per se, but I felt like I tried to really mimic, like, what we had done when I was an assistant. And then that third year, so the year that we, went defeated, we...
It's what it is.
Yeah,
you got to own it. You got to own
right.
it.
It is what it is.
You got to own it.
And so I kind of was like, it's sink or swim. Like, it might not work out, but I'm going to try to do things how I think they should be done. And I failed, we failed. And it's not always a bad thing. That season goes through my mind daily. There's not probably a day that goes by if I think about volleyball that I don't think about that, because, you're, like you said, you're in it, and it really, it will scar you. You know what I mean?
You're also, okay, unlike my sport, we run in a field or around a track away from everyone. So we have a bad season. I don't got to say,
Not that many people saw.
no one cares about cross country and track. So it's a thorough country sport anyways, but you're on the court, in college
and people
athletics.
Are trying to support you.
Volleyball is the female opposite of football. You have your focus. So you're every day got to go on that court, and it's like, put a smile on, and the whole time you're just like,
deep breaths.
Yeah. deep breaths. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So how'd you turn it around?
So, really, like, I wouldn't make excuses, but a lot of things, like, just did not go in my favor that year. And, it happened, and I really learned from it. And so, looking at other teams on our conference, I really felt like, too, at that point, like, our conference made a shift, and we were pretty good. And then our conference, a lot of coaches, I think there was like 3 or 4 other coaches that them and myself all started the same time. Got to their places the same year, and they were better than who was there previously. And so it just, like, our conference just skyrocketed. And so just, like, looking, like Coffeyville, who is a powerhouse in volleyball now, they we used to beat them all the time. Like it was nothing. And so I'm like, really you just need a couple, like I can turn this around. It's fine, but I have to find the right kids.
Yeah.
And I really attest this year to that. And, after that winless season, I was like, okay, we're not going to go probably win a national championship the next year. To go from not winning a game to winning a national championship is probably unrealistic. But if I can find some kids that are good stepping stones that can get us going in the right direction, then that's what I need to do. And so, there was a couple key roles that I thought were important, and I found kids to come in. And so, the next year we weren't unbelievable by any means, but it was an improvement.
Yeah. No, yeah, you improved, and you got the new staff, and you're able just to reset, like, you had 0 wins.
Bottom, so you can't get worse.
No, you can't. Can't get worse. You can't get worse. So why not just start from scratch? Exactly. You're already at scratch, so we just got to start.
Yep, let's just start over. And I started just looking inside at what I needed to do better, and really doing some reading and things like that, and listening to different, there's everything's on the internet. You can listen to all sorts of coaches on the internet. So just like listening to like what they had to say. And then just finding kids that like I knew could come in and get it done in certain positions. So, a setter is a really big one for us. And so just finding that setter that I knew could run an unbelievable offense. And outside hitters are always dominant in our conference because they're going to get the most balls. Just statistically, that's how it is. And so finding outside hitters that, well, okay, if they get 60% of balls, they better be able to put it away.
Yeah.
And so just trying to find better athletes and kids that were better off the floor as well. So
I know.
I really give it to them.
I know, and believe it or not, I do research. I know, and this isn't throwing shade at no one. If they do, then it's probably because it's true. You could have taken a shortcut. And when I say shortcut, you could have went international and brought in, I don't want to say hired guns, but hired. And I see it all the time. You have 6 players on the court. If 3 of those players are international, and to each their own to every school, I get it. For me as a coach, I want to know that I want validation for my system, my offense, my defense. I have coached internationals, and I've coached really good ones. And a lot of times I didn't think, I was like, I could have just
done that.
Hadn't had to work as hard, and nothing against those programs at all. But you didn't do that. You did it with, out of state or in state. You mixed it up. You didn't take I don't want to say a shortcut, because who am I to judge? But I do think it's a shortcut, because anyone could just watch some video and bring someone over that's already really good.
Yeah.
You went out and recruited, and didn't, I don't know. That's my opinion. I'm entitled to it.
Yeah.
I know people will agree with it, and they'll point their fingers, and they can pick apart my life and my program all they want. That's more than happy. But I have more respect the fact that you did it. And I was unsure until I looked up your roster, and I was like, oh, that's what I was texting you. I was like, wow, you didn't take the shortcut. And this brings up a funny story off of the side. Was when we won, when I was at Cali, won the national title. I always wanted to get like a highway sign, and and the AD was always razzing me about volleyball. Volleyball Cali was good that year.
Yeah.
Jennifer, she can coach. She can really coach.
Can. Yeah,
but I would always give him, my AD at the time, Tom Sy, I'd give him, hell back. I was like, well, that's a D2 and the internationals. I don't have internationals. I'm doing this out. Well, our highway sign was there for a year, and then as soon as I left, volleyball won, and I was like, that is karma for me talking about stuff about Jennifer, and she's a good coach. She can coach. She's a great coach. She didn't need him, and that was my point. It's like, you don't need this, Jennifer. You can win without him. Do it without it. But I laughed. I was like, my highway sign was there for a year, and then women's volleyball took it down. That's what I deserve, karma. But that was kind of a funny story. But no, I had nothing against those other programs. Like I said, I didn't realize it until I saw your roster. I was like, okay. And the reason why I say that is, if you did it with all of the others, at some point you might not have those. With there might be bans with the COVID. You might not be able to get them out. So if you don't get them out,
right,
what happens if you get exposed because
Yeah.
you can't get the internationals out of the
Right.
country because of the COVID?
Right.
Now what are you left with? Oh, can you really coach them up?
Yeah.
That was my kind of point. And when I saw your roster, I was like, all right, that's you. You've exceeded everything. You know, and
Yeah.
19 wins in your 5th season when you had 20 total for 4. It's huge improvement.
Yeah.
And now you're like, all right. You always want to remind yourself, and obviously you're going to have the greatest reminder ever with the defeated season, but you always want to keep yourself humble and say, hey, it could go back to that, especially junior college. You can flip it from 1 to year. You can flip it. You lose half your roster every year. So I commend you for how you did it and not giving up. I guarantee you it was probably tough.
It was.
Now, how was Andy?
He was fine. I mean, I think that, like you said, at some point he probably didn't have anything to say.
I'm gonna go walk the dog, Whitney.
Yeah, at some point I probably didn't have anything to say.
Do you need anything from the store?
Ran out of solutions. So, you know, we tried it all, but you know, it happened. So, yeah. I don't think that either of us. At some point, I think as a female, I just was sad. I was just like, yeah, I'm just gonna be sad for a while.
Yeah. Hey,
and
at least
probably moped.
at least you can laugh about it now.
Yes, 100%.
It's the best part is you can laugh at it now.
Yeah.
Kind of moving on. Offense, defense. You talked about the setters. I'm assuming that's a quarterback for the volleyball people.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I like the quarterback.
Quarterbacks I like the setter, the quarterback. Is there a preference? Do you have a preferred preference when coaching? Are you more offensive heavy or defense, or what do you find yourself leaning towards? Or a mix?
Well, so what's interesting specifically about the setter and something that also is in my mind now is for the first 4 seasons I ran what they call a 6-2, which means they have 6 hitters, 2 setters, and you rotate a setter for a right side when they get to the front row. And that was mostly because junior college, your setters are probably going to be shorter because if they're 5'11", 6 foot, and they can set, that's the highest recruited position. They're probably not going to stay at a junior college. So typically we kind of had shorter, you know, 5'5" or smaller setters. This year, though, our setter was still 5'5", but she could jump pretty well and do some things. It was pretty creative, you know. And her and one of my sophomores battled it out there in the beginning, but then I decided, I guess, to change us to go to a 5-1. So meaning that she plays all the way around, and we have 5 hitters. So. So when she would get to the front row, it also kind of, one of the middles that we had kind of lent her abilities or her talents helped us in that way because she was a very active middle. She was actually from Humboldt. And
local.
Able to kind of run some stuff behind the setter, get out of the way, move a little bit better than your typical middle. Now, she was a little shorter than maybe most would prefer. So we probably gave up some both of them were, probably gave up some blocking stats there, but I felt very, very confident in our defense and our back row, so I was like, you know, it'll be fine. So yeah, changed to a 5-1 this year and ran that, you know, 95% of the year.
Nice.
So
do you okay, as a coach, if you're playing another team and you find a weak link, do you exploit that? Like, no,
100%.
Oh, I would.
Yes.
Like, basically, like,
especially,
like,
yes.
She's our, you know, I don't want to use the word, but let's get her.
Yeah.
Let's get her. Let's pick on her. Because
for sure.
Does it almost like snowball once that girl probably knows that they're coming after me on purpose.
Yes.
And every time you're like, don't hit it.
Yeah. The easiest time to exploit someone is probably when we're serving and then the other team is in serve receive. If you know someone's not a very good serve receiver, hey, well, we're going to take the ball to them every time. And try and hopefully get them out of system, mess them up, and then we have the chance.
The crowd heckles her.
Oh my gosh, our crowd
volleyball
this year,
crowds are volleyball crowds are amazing. I love it. Like they heckle. Like it should be an advantage of a crowd.
This year our crowd was unbelievable. We have some different highlights on like our Allen Volleyball Instagram. that really,
Subscribe.
there you go. Check it out.
I got 19 subscribers, so
Yeah.
not a whole lot of people will see this, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's all right. But yeah, the crowd this year was so much fun. But yeah, there was, I won't name any team names, but there was one team that was ranked that we beat pretty late in the season, our second to last conference match, and there was a couple girls on there. I mean, don't get me wrong, they had some Division I players, some international kids, and but they had a couple positions that were key that I was like, if we can just do these things, we'll be all right. You know, we're gonna try to make these two girls beat us, and then everyone else we can kind of exploit.
Very similar to like basketball. Like, okay, let's exploit this area to get us on a run, because team could be better than you, and if you exploit them enough, that momentum and the heckling and everything else, if that person's not mentally strong to like, hey, let's stop this bleeding, it could change it
for sure.
So I love heckling. I'm glad we don't have highlights, because when we had volleyball and basketball games, this is before internet. I wish I had internet and social. Right? I would have had so many creative, witty, appropriate things to say to the other team.
That's right.
Keeping it clean. That's what I like to do.
You would think that, like, which I personally was a back row player. I was a defensive specialist, so I never really got involved until seeing it on the coaching end. But you would think, like, oh, volleyball, like, there's no contact. No, those people are jawing through the net the whole time. The whole time.
I feel like with women, women are gonna take passive aggressive remarks, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure you got
the time.
The passive directed, the passive aggressive remarks from women are probably brutal, because women are vicious when it comes to that.
Well, and then this year, the girls that I had, so funny, like, love them, and they would get after those people, man. And they,
like, look at the shoes, like,
passive aggressive, and some a little more aggressive that got called out for. But
hey, I feel like, you know what? It's if it's between the nets, between the lines, anything should go.
Right.
As long as soon as it ends, you guys shake hands.
Right.
And I feel like you have to leave it there, but I feel like that's just an element of the game. I feel like trash talk should be, I don't want to say exploited, because I can't trash talk when you're you're not supposed to trash talk when you're coaching with running,
right.
But there's some subtle things I'll say that I'll probably passive aggressive to get the other team to respond. That's great. We kind of touched on it. Your husband also coaches.
Yes.
How is that? So you're talking to him last week or the last show. Your seasons don't crisscross. So I laughed. I said, what happens? Did he go on a lot of dog walk? You have a dog?
2 dogs, yeah.
Did you go on a lot of dog walks during the the O for season? Because after a while, I think towards the end, I'm like, I'm just going to walk the dog when you get home. Or...
Probably more golfing. I don't know. He still does that. But we have a nice backyard, so he doesn't really have to walk the dog. We just kind of let him out the door. But, maybe some more time spent outside grilling or golfing or something like that.
I was telling him the one thing you look with marriages, and when you have a coach in marriage, or a coach's wife or a coach's husband, a lot of times there is issues within that, because this significant other doesn't understand how the other one thinks or feels, or they just want to be left alone, or maybe they don't want to talk about it, or maybe it works. I feel like it works now with 2 coaches. You get each other, and you're not in the same sport, so you're almost like they can be there for you when you need to unload on something or something, and he'll understand it and you'll understand him.
Yeah.
Take us through that. It's got to be a benefit, a plus.
Yeah. It definitely is. I mean, mostly I feel like my strategy if we lose or something is I just come home and straight just let it all out. I just straight vent, and he just listens.
I can see him just
exactly. Yep.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yep. Yep.
Exactly. Right.
Exactly.
That's exactly right.
Good strategy. Perfect.
So, he's just listening and will provide a little feedback. Volleyball is so different of a sport that and he understands it pretty well. He's like yourself. He really enjoys actually playing and stuff. But give me a little feedback. He probably hates when he comes home after a basketball loss because I still give him my feedback and just I'm like, why is this person doing this? And you guys need to do this. And he's not that I'm like, a basketball coach by any means, but I give him my thoughts. So well, in your notes later, you were talking about when I was a student here. So I did track for you and you left, and then my sophomore year, I played basketball for Kohlhoff.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I know that. I was going to touch on a little bit at the end about the track.
Yeah, we'll come back to
that. So you have the virus thing. Your season already ended. So you had your season, but you like with Jeremy with women's soccer, your guys' season's in the fall. However, you do a lot of, all right, where can we build on, the 19-win season?
Yeah.
We're moving forward. We want to take a next step forward. Off season is huge because you won't see him for 2 months. How is that? How did you handle that? And your sophomores, you didn't necessarily you had a send off during the season, but you didn't have the send off you normally would have.
Yeah.
Take us through how did you handle this?
I mean, as far as the sophomores, I got to see most of them just really quickly right before, as they're packing up in the parking lot and say, bye. But it definitely wasn't typical. So, as far as like off season though, the most unfortunate is like we didn't come back from spring break, and starting, I think it was supposed to be like April 4th. We were set to be in 4 or 5 spring tournaments, and so not being able to do those, and also knowing we were going to lose some people that played since some significant time. It was also time to get freshmen, more ready and hopefully develop them into people that if they didn't play this year that could step up and play, be ready to play. And so it was kind of unfortunate not to get that sort of time because we did have some kids that were making large improvements. I know nothing about cross country, but being
they run in fields.
Yeah, right. But you don't get
randomly. Yeah,
you show up early and we get exactly 2 weeks, and then we play our first scrimmage.
Yeah.
And so it's not, if you can't figure it out in those 2 weeks, it's, you just have to, it's crazy during season because then you might not figure it out until spring, and so then we just didn't get all of that developmental time.
You want to be able to, you're freshman, you've been through the trenches as Bilderbeck has said.
Yeah.
You've gone through that, you've had success, you've tasted a winning record. Now, how do we build on that? Let's change, not change A and B, but there's C, D, E, and F we can add and manipulate. Let's get that in.
Yeah.
And got that taken away from you.
Got taken away. Yeah.
That is tough. Juggling coaching duties. You guys have a daughter.
Yes.
As you mentioned. How is that juggling with this whole corona, how is it juggling with coaching? It seems your seasons don't intersect. So that makes it much easier trading time, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it does. I mean, just like probably Blaine Tatum's been to practices here and there.
Yep.
She's been in the gym, I've had to hold her on my hip while also telling kids what to do. I think you just figure it out. Now, don't get me wrong, that's by far, I mean, she's getting to the point now that it's much easier to manage. But when she was
4,
she's about to turn 4 in August.
It gets easier
it's a lot.
Stages of
parts of it.
It doesn't get easy. It never gets easy until they're out of sight. But there's stages of it.
Yeah. So, now at least she can sit at the score table and color by herself. But there for a while, I won't. It was one of the hardest things I've done is try to have some sort of normalcy coaching and having her and having Andy have to do things because even when you're not in season, there's certain responsibilities. So there's difficult at times for sure.
And there's no playbook on. I mean, they have books. I got some of those books when we had first. Right. I didn't read any of them.
I read one.
You start reading it, you're like, you know what? I'll just work this out as I go. And you never. You kind of just. you adapt. You mess up, like, I probably can't do that. I'm going to adapt. So I do enjoy it. Blaine, it's funny, me and Blaine filmed, and I was laughing because we went from, he would come to practice, and when we would drop the athletes off, I would drive the Van 16 to different spots. He would stand up on the seat and act like he was driving. I was going 5 miles an hour. It wasn't speeding, no, but we were on the road, and he'd be yelling at them as they're running by. And now the interaction, the stages. It's been funny because each team has seen a different Blaine. Yeah, and
sure.
The early ones are like, he didn't even talk.
Yeah,
he was just tiny, and now he's telling us about his favorite dinosaurs and characters, and specifically telling me, telling on me when I don't teach him the second grade stuff he's supposed to. So I laugh when I ask this. I had to ask this. You look through Pinterest?
Oh, all the time.
All the time.
Yes.
I asked most people. I love Pinterest.
It's amazing.
It is amazing. I know it sounds like something women would want to do with crafts and arts and things.
Right? It's not.
No, it's not.
It's not.
No, I know you can.
You can find anything on Pinterest.
Outfits, anything. And I was telling Builder back when I talked to him, I go, I looked up Pinterest outfits. If you don't know what, hey, black shirt, what pants I need, and you'll see it.
Oh, you can be so detailed and be like, white shoes, black shirt, a summer concert outfit. And it'll pull up, and you're like,
it's a rabbit hole, and you clicked. I've never fully figured out Pinterest. I know that it's saved, but it's almost like you click on it, it takes you to something else. Click on it, something else. It's like a constant maze.
You're right.
I keep waiting for just a stop in one area, but it doesn't stop. It just constantly
clicks. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Yard care, lawn care for man stuff. Tells you how to electricity.
Yep.
This
I
setup.
have laying tile because we bought some tile we need to lay in our bathroom.
Oh yeah.
I have probably 75% of my boards are home things, like house paint, outside stuff, like you said, lawn care. But then I have outfits, tattoos, shoes. It's so stupid.
The guys on the team, when I'll say Pinterest, they'll laugh. I'm like, no, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
You want to be ahead of the game?
Yeah.
Go on Pinterest. It has everything. I just don't think it gets the respect that it should because it sounds like I think something women
would do.
Yeah, women would do. And it just sounds arts and crafty, but it is not. I love Pinterest. Series. You watch any series? You have gotten into any? Because I know with the whole, it seemed like with us being at home and whatnot, I went through every top 10 Netflix.
Yeah. Right.
Amazon
I think
Prime.
that's where we're at. Yeah. We've been through most of the top 10 Netflix. We just started the Jeffrey Epstein docu-series last night.
I can't get through that. I try.
Well, we had watched one on
it's hard.
cable one time, and it was almost identical. And I was like, we've heard all this.
Well,
I'm not sure that we have to watch this.
Okay, I don't want to get, and I know I can get. I'm gonna try to keep this positive,
right.
but I'm trying to choose my words. He knows a lot. That wasn't suicide.
Yeah,
He knows way more than, and the laundry list of people he knows who's with him. That needs to be exposed because it's pretty sick.
Yeah.
There's a certain individual that flew with him 26 times, I believe, or 23, that ran the country a while ago. You fly with anyone 26 times, you're friends. Yeah, you're pretty close. Know each other too well. When is the mob gonna get him?
Yes.
That's what I was waiting for. I couldn't get to that point, so I kind of just gave up.
Yeah, we watched a pretty good movie the other day. The Wrong Missy has it's like a Billy Madison production. It was so,
okay. I saw it.
I thought it was great.
I love Billy Madison movies, but some of his stuff burns me out, and I haven't.
It's a little same, but
it's a little same. I just I've never fully gotten into Adam Sandler. Now, obviously, I'll quote Happy Gilmore, and especially when I'm golfing nonstop.
Yeah.
The banter that goes on there. We got into. Well, I made a joke. I told my wife, I was like, I got Andy because he had that stash.
Oh my gosh,
it's
coming back.
But
he shaved it, and then I was like, "There's too much space between your nose and your lip."
Just so I can not feel as less of a man sitting next to a guy with a stash. But when he said he shaved, I was like, "Oh, okay, never mind." Then.
Did you see Clint's?
Yes.
Very thick.
It was very thick, very thick. I feel like a mustache is something that you can't half mustache it. You had to be all in, or because if you don't, it just looks disgusting.
Yeah.
And you just look just awkward. but if
Yeah.
you can get a solid stash, a man stash,
Yeah.
go all in.
Yeah, he's bringing it back. He shaved it once and it's coming back. So
One of the funny things I when you were here, you were a track athlete, and obviously the large mass of followers that I have currently right now probably don't know that you were. I didn't know you were. I forgot you were basketball, but you did track.
yeah.
I was. I need to ask you this. How did you know I didn't know anything about pole vault? I had no idea. I was so clueless.
No, yes and no, but it really. So first of all, I don't know why I decided to do track, except for I had a friend who was gonna throw javelin, and she's like, "Well, you did track in high school, like you should just come." And I'm like, "Yeah, but I wasn't good." Like, and so really, even in high school, like, shout out to my high school basketball coach. Freshman year, I was not gonna do track. I was like, I did volleyball, I did basketball. I was like, I'm not doing track. And she was also my PE teacher, and she called me over. Track season was starting that day, and she said, "Whitney, what spring sport are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm not doing either. I'm not doing anything." And she's like, "Well, you did track in middle school." I was like, "Yeah, not good." She's like, "Well, at 3:30 today, you're gonna go and you're gonna do track." And I was like, at the time, she was a very intimidating woman, so as a freshman in high school, so I was like, okay, I guess I'm doing track. So then that's what I did for 4 years. Pole vault was kind of random. I had just, I was doing other events, and again, not good at any of them, but I did them because that's what I was told to do.
Yeah.
And I had a friend who wanted to do pole vault. She went and took some lessons. Our high school didn't have the equipment, but they ordered the equipment, and so then I got put in pole vault because back then I was more fit and a little stronger, so that's kind of where pole vault came in. But yeah, coming here, it's not something I really anticipated doing too much, but then
We had
here
Kayla.
I was.
Kayla Irwin was a thank
was good,
goodness for her. Like, she was really good.
She was really good.
And when I got the job here, I was told, hey, there's a pole vaulter that's coming to play basketball, and I'm like,
pole
vault. It's like, oh,
great.
That's awesome. I can't wait to coach pole vault. That's the one thing as a crack coach that I don't want to fake an event that I don't know. And pole vault's one of those. Like, I don't want to pretend to be a pole vault coach.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to discourage you from coming to Allen as your pole vaulter, because I know I coached with a really great pole vault coach at Cali, and I know what it takes. It's expensive. It takes a lot of poles.
Yeah.
I was like, we had 3 poles. I was carrying. I felt like I was just carrying Kayla's, and your guys' poles to the meet, and I was so. I hated. I don't say I hated. I just did not like coaching pole vault because I knew I was never going to be good, and I picked up on stuff because I'm semi-intelligent, but I just didn't want to because I knew that I didn't want to be a fake, and I was always like, I wonder how. I knew Kayla knew I didn't know anything I was talking about, which is fine.
Yeah.
And we kind of, before she came, we laid our groundwork. I'm like, I don't know anything, right?
Yeah.
Okay, just so there's no expectations on your end.
Yeah. I think I had went back to her high school with her one time, and we took our stuff with us, and she had a good pole vault coach in high school, and so we kind of went. And
he vaulted for Mark Phillips over at Cali.
Oh,
so,
really?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
there you go.
Because Mark's the one that told me, he's
there
like,
you
you're getting really good pole vaulter. I'm like, no. I have no clue.
Yeah. So I wish that it would have been something I was better at because it was so fun. Like, I enjoyed doing it.
We had fun.
I just wasn't great at it.
We had fun. I tried to make it fun. I felt like if I could humor the environment as much as I possibly could, it would offset how bad of a pole vault coach I was. So if I could just juggle, I'm like, just let me juggle and make some jokes, and we'll fake our way through this season. When you were a student here, I was obviously coaching here.
Yeah.
We were on the same the intramural volleyball team, right? It was me, you, Andrew.
That's right.
And
Philip, Dale.
Yeah. And that's one thing I know people don't know. I love playing volleyball.
Yeah.
I'm no Karch Karai, but I like to think that I was decent enough. My I don't say bump sets, my volleys or what. My volleys hit and miss, obviously, but I know I could get up and just hammer it. And the funny part was I was thinking, that was the first time I ever seen JP's competitive fangs come out, because when I would kill or I would get a spike, I would antagonize the other side. I would do the Ric Flair woo and then like back and forth. I don't know if you remember you doing that. And then whenever we played them, I could tell I was getting to her just throughout the whole thing. And I could tell her competitiveness was just really driving her nuts. The first time they scored one on us, she like reached over and did some volleyball cheering, clapped at me. And I was like,
what is this?
I was so good. Yeah, I was like, did I just get burned? Like, and the whole time, the rest of the way, I was like, she took it serious. Like, I honestly, I felt like we were on that team. We lost. I know we lost to them. But I know I brought that
Something
out. Yeah. I was like, oh, I probably shouldn't antagonize her. But I was thinking of that as I was coming up, to talk. And I was like, man, I don't think people realize I love volleyball. I've always enjoyed it.
It's a different sport. Like, I think people look at it sometimes and think like, oh, I can do that. You're just jumping in the air. But there's really a lot of like technique. But I kind of, I teach fundamentals of volleyball class. And this past semester, I only had one volleyball girl in the class. And so I ended up having to teach basketball players and baseball players some technique, because if we didn't, we weren't going to get very far in our class time. So it's now I love playing volleyball with other volleyball girls. Problem is you can't have more than like two on the same team, because if you start getting more, they don't include you in. Yeah, they just skip you.
And they skip you, and they get on to you if you're not in your spot, and they're speaking code. I'm like, I don't know what that means. Just put it in the air. Let me just hammer on that person's face. Like just
100%.
Yeah, just up in the air. Or guy volleyball players. It's not fair.
No,
That's not fair.
It's not fair.
Because you see them get up.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm just gonna just go ahead.
Go ahead and leave.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you should have asked Andy. We play in some rec leagues down at the rec, and him and I on the same team. Rarely do we get in an argument, but he tries to tell me, oh, I need it tighter to the net, and I'm like, no, you don't. You need to wait, and you need to like stay behind the ball. And he's like, I don't know what that means. I'm like, yeah, I know you don't.
Also, I feel like that spoiled kid. Like, I hate when I'm in the back, like in the rotation, I'm always creeping up to the front. And I do remember that was instigating it with JP and that team. Is I kept, she's like, you're supposed to be back there. You're out of your zone. I was like, I don't know what that means. We're not playing your AVP or whatever volleyball rules. We're playing intramural. Yeah. I'm a rover. I'm that. I get to do whatever I want. And I would always crowd the person, or I'd jump over the top. That game is always fun. But yeah, when you play with real volleyball guys, it's not fun no more.
No.
Because they can hit it.
Yeah. Even at the rec one year, a guy that I'm friends with, he brought this guy who just happened to be from Fort Scott. And I guess he'd played overseas, like internationally, for like 5 or 6 years. And as soon as he walked in the gym, I was like, what's this guy doing? Because he was like, I don't know, he was like 6'7", but he had on volleyball shoes. And I'm like, no men wear volleyball shoes just because. So I'm like, this guy knows what he's doing.
They have men's volleyball shoes?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So as soon as he came in, I was like, this guy is not playing. And of course, like, I mean, he would go like half speed because he was just killing everybody.
Yeah. You watch it, like, you watching it on the Olympics is when you see a lot of it, or the sand volleyball one cracks me up, but it kills me. That's a workout in itself. That is a workout, yes. And 2v2, you're constantly.
I know I'm not athletic enough to play sandball.
Yeah.
I don't jump well enough, and I'm not fast enough. Those people are a different breed for sure.
I definitely, I do enjoy playing volleyball. So as I was coming up here, I was thinking about that story. I was like, I remember that. I was like, that was. Anytime I could play volleyball, I would always, I'll play. I mean, I'm all right. I'm okay. As soon as I get a chance to just hammer on someone, I'm hammering it, and then I'm just pointing and heckling just to try to get under skin. But that was the first time I was out heckled, and I got chanted and clapped, and I was like, got coded up with the different volleyball codes. Yeah, she was throwing codes out too. Yeah, like she would tell her, hey, say this code, and she'd say it, and her teammate knew where to put it at. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Whitney, what are they saying? I was like, who else? We need to find out what they're telling. So we know where to be at. Yeah. But thank you very much for taking the time to come on here, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Do you have anything else you're wanting to?